Hi, I'm Ted Santos, and I am your host of Straight Talk. We are the talk show that's made for men by men, except ladies, you never want to miss our shows. We talk about life, love, social issues, and always from the man's perspective, the man's point of view, something that's rarely heard. And today, I'd like to talk to you about relationships. Except today, everyone's going to be pissed off with me, men and women. And you know what? Sometimes you need to be pissed off. If you look at the way relationships are happening in this country, they're not working. At least for some people. The way we set up our social structures, there's so much that's accepted and allowed, and everyone wants to point the finger. Amazing when you watch how men claim they want to lead, yet they let women lead them. So I want to talk about something important. I'm even going to share some personal travel experiences that make this relevant. So we're going to throw out all political correctness. And we're going to I want to talk to you right now about why women will never be as mature as men. That's right. I know in society we learn that, the little girls are smarter than boys and they're more mature and girls are more mature. And we say that because the little girls get their menstrual cycle supposedly before boys go to puberty. Sometimes they are. These little girls are getting their menstrual cycle at 7 years old. So is a 7-year-old now and all of a sudden as mature as a 20-year-old? And she doesn't even know what's going on. So we've been taught as boys and men that girls and women are more mature than us. And actually they're not. I mean, if you just look at the facts, look at the way men look at life. Men look at life and they look at the big picture and they look at long term. As boys, we're already thinking about how we're going to take care of our family, the jobs we're going to have, and not just the wife we want and how we take care of our children, but we're actually thinking about things we need to do in the world we live in and how that affects our entire family. And we know that as men, we are responsible. We know we're responsible for making all that happen in a relationship. And women are often looking for a guy who's going to take care of them. Even when they brag about all this education they have and this great job they're going to have, but they're still not thinking about being responsible. They're thinking about my money is my money and your money is my money. And how does that work in a relationship? How do you build anything with someone? I mean, and then they want to marry you. Look, marriage is a legal binding contract. Like, if you think it's anything else, think of yourself finding a business partner, and you find your business partner just based on love and how much you like them, except they are incompetent, and their money is their money. Like, you divide the company up, and you're not using the money to invest back in and pay for office space and payroll, you're divided. That's not a good business partnership. If you're building a business as two guys building a business together, you're going to put all your resources into accomplishing the mission of the company, of the union, of the corporation. But marriage is no different. Yet women come into it with this very immature belief that they are there just to be taken care of. And if they have sex, they're doing you a favor. And they'll do it because you're providing resources. Except she gets an education and a job as a backup plan, not to be more intelligent or have something valuable to bring. It's so that if you dare want her to do things that she feels like is forcing her, she's got to be responsible, she can just walk away. Say, well, I got my own. And if you think that's mature, if we're teaching little girls that that's a way to enter a marriage, instead of saying, hey, we are in this together. All of our resources are now for our union, our corporation that we just created through holy, what we call marriage. Some people call holy matrimony. So men are thinking in a much more mature way. But here's the biggest problem, guys. You allow this to happen. And I know a lot of you have a problem with that. You say, well, this is just the nature of women. Well, this is the nature of human beings. If you take away responsibility and tell them they can do whatever they want. I mean, they've ran some real experiments by creating a mock prison situation by taking all men, putting them in prison, and making one group of men the guards and another group of men the prisoners. The guys who were the guards eventually were out of control. And they were not women. Just the rules, like they were not held responsible. And if you create an environment, I don't care if it's prison or an island. The movie The Lord of the Flies was promoting, telling you the same thing. It doesn't even matter the age, adults, children. You let people off the hook for being responsible, then they are going to be immature and think that they can do anything they want without consequences. You know, on my shows, Straight Talk, we've talked about how we raise boys to understand consequences. Like if boys get physical consequences for not being responsible. And girls get loved and kissed and told they can do no wrong. And some of them have strict mothers that are very dysfunctional. But that's just teaching dysfunction, not discipline and consequences. We don't discipline our children the same. And aside from that, we don't even have the same biochemistry. We don't make it, we want men and women to be equal, except we don't teach them equal responsibility. And as men, as fathers, we don't do it. Except if you look at some other cultures, that's not happening. I lived in several Latin American countries. And unfortunately, there are a lot of teenagers or even 10-year-olds, male and female, who are more mature than adults here in the United States. They are taught responsibility at a young age. Their culture doesn't allow it. And if you say, well, that's their culture. Well, hell, look at here in the United States. You have Latinos here. They grow up under the same laws, the same court system. You look at Asians. Hell, look at the Asian population in the United States. Their teen pregnancy rate is about 3%. It's less than 4%. Black American, what is that? 18, 20%. White America's 14. And if you look at Hispanics, well, a lot of them get married as teenagers, so they'll have teen pregnancies, but they'll get married. As fathers, as brothers, as uncles and grandfathers, you're so focused on trying to make unequal people equal. We're trying to make men and women equal instead of complementing. And you want to make women equal without giving them the same responsibility. Look at the military. Women are not responsible for producing the same results as men. Yet they want to be equal. If we're going to have equal, make it across the board. Equal means equal. Hell, if I'm getting A's in calculus and the rest of the class they're getting C's and D's, and the professor gives everyone an A because it's unfair, then what kind of environment is that professor created? I'm earning my A's, and now you're going to give everyone an A and make them equal to me because it's unfair and they should have a chance? No, make them work for that. You see, a lot of you guys are so focused on vagina that you end up ruining your own relationships. You look at other cultures, Asians right here in the US, they don't tolerate that. And their women have vaginas also. They're living in the same laws, the same court system, the same child support. But you guys think racking up, not putting notches in your belt for how much vagina you can have. Meanwhile, the Asian population is coming here and buying up 10 square blocks in your neighborhood. 10 square blocks, they come in and buy it at once and create Chinatown and tell you you can't live there anymore. You can come there and buy their products and finance their wealth. And then they take that wealth and write policies. So I'm saying, men, you are allowing this. People will do what you allow. Children do what you allow them to do. Women do what you allow them to do. If you give them equality without equal responsibility and you say, well, we have to give them a pass or that they've had a hard time. No, we all live on the same planet. One group of men allows it and allows bad behavior and another group of men do not. And like I said, they've done prison experiments. And these are not prisoners. These are people they just put in a prison environment to see how they would respond if you start lifting certain responsibilities and let people run off the leash and be out of control. So I lived in Belize, and I lived in a Mayan village with 329 people. And no electricity, no running water. And I lived just like the men. I worked just like the other men did. Agricultural society, planting corn, chopping down jungles with a machete. There was another village a few miles down the road, 500 something people. They had just gotten electricity about 30 days before I arrived there. And one of the things that happened was the young guys, early 20s, teens, saw Bloods and Crips. They're watching TV, some for the first time. And they decided they wanted to embrace and adopt the Blood and Crip culture. And they started pushing around some of the women and becoming aggressive. And the elders, the men, had a town hall meeting and told the parents, hey, the parents of these guys who are pushing people around, who are being aggressive, you know who your sons are. We're not going to point fingers at you, except here's how it's going to go. Either you stop your sons or we stop them. And if we stop them, you'll find them dead in the jungle. Somehow, those parents stopped their boys from harassing and being aggressive in their village. But the men took that responsibility. They didn't allow that. So if men want to sit around and say, well, women are just doing this and they're doing that. Yeah, women call us misogynists, sexist. They have all kinds of names. And I'm just blown away what in return what you guys do is fire back with more name calling instead of taking a stand. And drawing a line and having boundaries and saying that's it. If you want something from women, you demand it. There are 7.5 billion people on the planet. Most of them are women. There are lots of women to choose from. And if you're going to sit around like a desperate guy who can't get women, then you probably don't deserve one. So, women talk to us about how nurturing and caring they are. Except when it comes to relationships, they're really more concerned about what's in it for them. And they don't care if you have to work 3 or 4 jobs to give them what they want. They don't care if you die. And you accept that. You accept that their money is their money, your money is theirs, and you'll work yourself to death. You'll accept that they won't discuss things because they feel stressed and it's uncomfortable. Hey man, relationships require conversations about everything. You guys let them off the hook and then say, well, they're women, you got to give them a pass. No, you talk about things and you find out whether they have the communication skills up front before you get married. You don't have a woman just be nurturing just to get her foot in the door and then she stops. Sex is important. That's another thing. Women just cut that out too, and you guys accept it. But this coronavirus is actually good for you guys who are dating because now it's going to force you to do a few things. One is really get to know a woman. So you get to find out who she really is. And if she starts talking about what she's not going to do and putting sex on the line as though it's some kind of carrot to hold in front of you, once a woman puts sex as a bargaining chip, she most likely is telling you she has nothing else to offer. And she knows that. Like that's her last stand. That's the only thing that she has. You need to wake up and be honest about that. Because if a woman is using sex as a bargaining chip and that's all she has to bargain with, and you marry her, she'll use that through your entire marriage. Once she starts talking about sex as something to bargain with, you can forget about sex with that woman. Do not marry her. Sex is mutual. It's not her doing some favor for you. Except you guys accept that because you're so hopeful and you just chase after the little carrot. And then when that same woman gets to me, she believes that behavior is acceptable. So then she's going to go through this whole struggle with me because I won't tolerate it. You guys allow this. And then you name call these women misandric and gynocentric. Why are you allowing women to lead you in your behavior? You just follow right behind them. And you think they're going to respect you? Men in other cultures don't do that. And as a result, they don't have the same problems. They don't raise their daughters to be pregnant as teenagers. You guys are so focused on trying to make your daughter feel good and telling her she's a princess. Except how many of you invest, like spend the money to send your daughter to get real training and development, like to be a real princess, not some fantasy out of a book where she's going to kiss frogs or the prince is going to come save her. You're teaching your daughters to be irresponsible. You're calling her a princess without ever having her earn that title. You send her, you invest a lot of money to send her somewhere where she gets trained to make decisions like princesses. That means she's not getting pregnant out of wedlock. There are plenty of women, and I'm in no way am I condoning women being promiscuous. There are plenty of women who have been promiscuous and never ever showed up pregnant. Some people will say, well, maybe they had an abortion. Maybe, but I tell you what, when they did get pregnant, they were impregnated by a guy of their choice, and they married. I already did a video about this new upper class that's coming, and they understand marriage. A lot of these women from this new, affluent, highly intelligent upper class, the women from that demographic will tell other women, oh, there's a new family and single mothers is a new thing and you just go and do your thing and woman power. And then those women go home to their husbands and their children. And they leave you out there being a single mother because they know raising children as a family works. When you raise children as a single mother, one of the first things that happens is that child is emotionally traumatized because there's a parent not there and available for them. Boys and girls need their daddy. There's no way around that. And it's damn selfish to think that you can do it and you don't need a man to do it. And this is what I mean. Right? We accept and allow women to be selfish, and you guys accept it. You say, well, this is just gynocentrism. She's misandric. No. It's what you allowed. One of the things, instead of teaching your daughters they're a princess, teach them that all boys and men are animals. Yeah, we're animals. We're wild beasts. And if you teach your daughter that if she has a pet wild animal like a wolf and she mistreats that wolf will rip her throat out. And as a result, what does she do with this wild animal? And there are women who have tigers as pets and black panthers. And you watch the affection and how much care they demonstrate to these wild animals. Why? So those wild animals give them the same affection back. But if those women mistreat those wild animals, they will pay a price. Yet you teach your daughters it's okay to mistreat a wild animal called a male human being. Men are the apex predator. They're smart enough to figure out how to kill any other animal: whales, sharks, lions, elephants. We are wild animals. And you don't teach your little girl to get up in the face of a wolf and tell that wolf, I can kick your ass. That wolf will destroy her. And you know it's irresponsible for her to go up and challenge and want to fight a lion. Men are wild animals. Now, for men who are abusive, there's a price for that. But most men are not. Harvard Medical School found that 70% of domestic violence is initiated by women. But those same women would not initiate violence to a wolf or a lion. They understand the consequences. You're not teaching your daughters consequences. And as a result, that makes them very irresponsible. And irresponsible people are seen as immature. We're setting up this world and saying it's okay. We keep lowering the bar and saying, well, you just have to understand. That means men, you need to grow balls as fathers, uncles, grandfathers, husbands, boyfriends, brothers. Set boundaries. I mean, we do it in sports, right? When women play basketball, they understand this is out of bounds. They understand that you have to put the basket in that hoop to score it. You can't just throw the ball up in the air and say, I scored. Like as men, we've allowed the U.S. society to get out of control. You have people identifying as something they're not, and we just embrace it. I mean, imagine if I'm in that same calculus class and I'm getting A's, and everyone else is getting C's and D's, except they identify as an A student, so they believe they should get A's also. I mean, that's the Pandora's box we've opened up in the U.S. So if that same calculus class, if those other students identify as being an A and they are not responsible for doing the work like I did as an A student, why would they have that? Yet you men allow that in your relationships. I mean, if those same D students identify as A and then they get a job where engineering and calculus is necessary in some science job, and they didn't actually earn the A, it's going to show up. And a lot of you guys are feeling that in your relationships. And you think it's this child support courts. These women are identifying is not having to be responsible. And you have to be responsible because that's what it means to be a real man. And you accept that. You don't call them on that. So men, from little boys, we learn to be responsible. Ladies, females, for some reason, many of you don't. And it's okay with that. And when men call you on that, you'll claim we're bashing you. If I'm a doctor and your body's not functioning the way you want, I'm not going to bash you. I'm going to examine you. And I'm going to talk to you about how your diet, proper rest, how you treat your body or mistreat it, and the negative impact on you. And that's the same thing that happens in relationships. Men are going to talk to you about what they want, what's not working. We do an examination. And if you discard that, don't be surprised when you get the guy who you really don't like because he doesn't stand up for anything. So men, grow balls. Hold women responsible. And if they don't want to be, you just let them go. Release them. Catch and release. Don't keep unqualified women in your life. And I understand the whole desire for affection and sex and having a woman by your side. Yeah, I love that too. But if you keep dealing with women who are irresponsible, they're going to influence you. Your brain takes in everything that's around you. You start lowering the bar also. And it becomes more difficult for you to build. So you hold yourself to a high standard. And you hold women to a higher standard also. And if they think that's bashing them, let them go. If all men do that, they'll have to step up. Where responsibility is shared. I think that's about all I want to say on this subject. I'd like to see men and women come together. I put together a show called Straight Talk. It's a podcast. It comes on every Sunday at 7 p.m. and I have a Facebook page by the same name, Straight Talk. Love for you to join us on Sundays and come into my group. Connect with me, Ted Santos, on Facebook, and I'll drop you into the group and you can join the discussions. There are many men and women who are learning new perspectives about the opposite sex and also learning things about themselves. So it's a great place for learning and development. And guys, that needs to be a priority of yours so that you can hold yourself to a higher standard. The idea that you already know everything is very dangerous. If you lived 1,000 years, every year you have the possibility of being something you've never been before. So nothing is what it is. The possibility of growing beyond where you are is always there, no matter how long you live. And developing yourself to get there is very useful. And one of the ways in getting clear is knowing what you want. People who focus on what they don't want, that can be a dead end. And I'm just going to say this as a last comment. Just imagine yourself in a room, and in one corner is everything you don't want. And there you are in that corner, making sure all the things you don't want don't happen. You're there. Oh, I don't want this and I don't want that. And you're making sure you keep it in that corner. And the corner behind you, well, that's where all the things you want are located. Except you never see it. Maybe you glance at it or you see it, except you're so occupied with what you don't want that you never ever go over to the corner and actually fulfill the things you do want. And many of you, men and women, go into relationships so focused on what you don't want that you never actually build what you do want. So one of the ways to get out of that trap of being stuck in the corner of the things you don't want, and you have to reach the things you want, or like it's right there, you can see it, where you can't get to it because you're chained in the corner of what you don't want. Personal development is a great way to get out of that trap. And in the near future, I'm going to put together some workshops to help people do that. So until then, I'd like to hear your comments on this video. Like it, share it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. And if I pissed off some of you, yeah, I'd like to hear why. Tell me why. Tell me what you don't like about what I said. Join me on Facebook and Sunday evenings on Straight Talk. And until then, thank you very much, and I'll be talking to everyone soon. Goodbye.